Hey, I'm Brent Green. Woo! This is Brendan Canty and Donna K. And we're gonna show some, cartoons that I made with improvised soundtracks and the live narrations. And I hope you like it. I hope so. The first one we're gonna do is about Christmas, because I like Christmas. And it's about this cough syrup that this Louisiana politician named Dudley LeBlanc invented called Hadacol, that worked because it was almost entirely made out of alcohol. And they used to serve it by the shot in dry towns during Prohibition. And this is a film about my granddad Garland inventing Christmas with help from Hadacol, cough syrup. There are some people who think that Santa Claus cranks together Christmas with a gigantic golden wrench. That's not altogether true. You see, Santa was not an old man, but he had a cold for as long as he could remember. And when he was feeling ill, which was most all the time, he drank Hadacol. Hadacol was a cough syrup that was popular a while back. It sponsored a lot of Hank Williams radio shows. And like Hank Williams, it contained about 50% whiskey. Santa's garbage can was filled with empty bottles. His liver was huge and caked with blood, and this is why he felt sick most of the time. He also stayed awake all night, every night, and this is why he felt sick the rest of the time. But he strained to stay up, filled with the fear that while sleeping, he'd put himself away and just not remember where. There was no Mrs. Claus, but he did have a scarecrow in the yard, and he'd become quite adept at building everything from outlandish machinery to little trinkets and baubles. Of all the things that Santa made, some of them were wonderful, some practical, but none were just merely passable, unusual, or okay. He had a foot pump for putting air back into dying baby birds. He had a phonograph that made beautiful concertos out of strange, unearthly sounds. And even though it was dried and dying, he kept a gold holly garland hemmed with the hair of hounds. He'd walk around the garage for days, muttering to himself with an unholy conviction, Trees would bend and water boil from the friction when he was really thinking. And they boiled and bent and twisted away on the night he finished work on his death-defying, awe-inspiring, backfiring, flying sleigh. He'll call it Christmas, he exclaimed, because Christmas was going to be the very next day. And then he snapped. It had been a rough day. He'd been feeling really off, dizzy, and stuffed up. He'd taken a lot of medicine and was feeling very warm. The room was tighter than it seemed. Thousands of boxes lay sprawled across the floor. Hundreds of contraptions and apparatus stuffed with millions of cogs and wires were spilling out of the sheds and closets. Nothing was where it should be. Nothing was anywhere. He looked in the tackle box for hagfish defibrillator and found hooks and greased string. He looked under the sink where the pipes used to be. The fridge was empty. The socket in the bathroom light was empty. There was no more honey in the jar. Nothing was everywhere. Claus wrapped his arms around all of it, picking up what he could and throwing it on the back seat of the sleigh. He was a monster with riot iron bones. His body an old mansion, his mouth a door. The walls were melted wax, ceiling holes empty, and the sky is very clear. I can watch it all from way up here by the gasoline lights. In the attic, giant crows were arguing. One, staring at the rafters, had a split down his side where stuffing poured out into the floor. He was digging around the soft, dirty pile, looking for anything worth saving. Everyone in there buzzed and hovered, hemmed and hawed. But there was nothing wrong with him. Nothing at all. And when the sleigh finally parted the air on the outskirts of town, the exhaust puffing and chugging its fearsome sound, children tried to pretend that they were still sleeping. And when they heard Santa howling, they pulled the blankets back over their heads. He kept files on hand for precisely this occasion: bone samples, dental x-rays, wire brushes full of hair, full of DNA. But in the first 30 seconds, when you and I figured things would most likely go wrong, nothing did. And when the sleigh finally parted the air on the outskirts of town, the exhaust puffing and chugging its fearsome sound, children tried to pretend that they were still sleeping. When they heard Santa howling, they pulled the blankets back over their heads. And he was roaring, "Ho, ho, ho," wildly, chasing the wind around the buildings and scaring the snow to the ground. And all the beautiful toys that he had labored on came hurtling down. Well, up here it's beautiful. It would calm me down. Clouds make quiet scraping sounds as they drag across the sky. There's a glowing Chernobyl backdrop, and you are much too high to make out the mess. Well, everyone finally did get back to sleep, and Santa Claus passed out in the cold, cold weather. And hours after you had tuckered out, your bed rose off the ground and past the window. The pit orchestra kicked in, and kicked in hard. Dreaming that all night, it's a wonder you slept at all. But wondrous things happen all the time, and to sleep through even one of them might cripple your life. But it will come back tomorrow. Just more ragged, and with weeds in your teeth, and blood all over your hands. On Christmas morning, all the children had found something wonderful half buried in the drifts around their homes. It was declared a holiday because the smokestack shook and broke, and there was just too much snow. All right, that's one down. Thanks. All right. Okay. This one's a true story too. It's more minimal than the other one. Oh no, it's more maximal. Sorry. This is Paulina Hollers. It's about this asshole kid and his mom, Paulina, who's a religious nut. And it goes, fingers curled, tendons tight, the morning rooster began to stir and cast light. While everyone says, Paulina, your child is a bad child, he's rotted through. He's gonna burn like a coal mine in hell's fire. Knotted and lifted, already setting in, but some beauty shining through. God conducts the weather and squeezes it from the clouds. God's hands spin the world as they speed up and slow down. Well, Paulina's son Holler is an asshole. I've seen him with the Phillips head twisting live bugs into the ground, or at his bedroom window pumping the BB gun. Such a powerful feeling for a small child, like the muscles in a crow's jaw, pushing them around and thinking of all the funny things that crow could have said to save his own life. The first time you shot a bird, you didn't kill it, you winged it, and my dad had to step on its head. Well, Holler shoots the rabbit from his bedroom window. And he goes outside to pick it up by the ears to drag it to a roadside so a car can run over its head. So he goes out and he grabs the rabbit and he's dragging it to this road so this bus that's coming along will run it over and kill it. But Holler's leaned a little further over the road than the rabbit is. The bus hits him, fingernails splinter on the asphalt, the rabbit gets away, and Holler's ghost flips into hell. Medic could obviously know children of his own cut open Holler's skin with the scissors. There's no blood getting to the heart. You could see it purpling clearly. Normally, the scissors would reveal the red nest of life crammed to the frame. But the sun will shine on most anything. So the medic goes to Paulina's house to tell her son's dead. And she's home. So he goes in and he tells her. And that's easy for us to do, die. Because God builds like Frank Lloyd Wright. You can marvel at the complexity, ingenuity, and occasional beauty, but we are by no means sound. We're not even weatherproof. I like that one. And the raindrops pound the ground. The raindrops hammer the tin roof and the window panes. Wet clouds scrape against and corrode the house walls. Paulina's trying to figure out just how bad a kid her son was, if he's in hell. She's getting drunk. She talks to birds. Bread gets moldy. There are woes here digging cracks deep into her skin. And those cracks will stretch and continue to grow until they are big enough to swallow her whole. And then they will swallow her whole. But these are just wrinkles, she thought, and they're not because of burden, and certainly not woe. They're because I'm aging, and I will keep aging and aging until I get old. And this satisfied her enough to where she could shake off the cuffs she imagined shackled her legs to the bed. Not quite enough for all her strength to pull up the anchor strapped to her head. So her legs started floating, and her body soon followed. But that anchor was heavy, and her head was just not allowed. And when nighttime rolls around, I will lean to my window above my vent and scream at the owls in the trees until they're looking at me. And I will ask them which way you went. And Paulina gets up and goes running to her garden, thinking maybe Holler isn't hell, but maybe just beneath the garden with roots and rabbits tied. And she falls on her knees and starts digging. And I could hear him down there, but I just never could look down. And the radiator rattles in a steady rhythm. The radiator hums a constant melody, the high notes and accompanying clank, the steady hand religious pulse, the dust blurring your face. The sunlight hits the dust around your head and you are glowing like you have a halo. There's a great weight around my head. I sat up with the diving bell still on. I climbed out of bed with an airplane propeller still tangled in my hair. There's a great weight around my head. There are bushes here that could be trees if they wanted to be, and trees that bend down to the dirt. Trees that bend under the weight of weightless winds like men bend under the weight of weightless worries. And the water's still boiling in the tub, but you're still around, you're all around. You're under the carpet and in the light between the bulb and the shades. You're in the cupboards and soaring above the trees between the branches and the leaves, and she looked at the cupboard and he wasn't there. She looked at the lamp and it wasn't even on. And that thing snagged inside at the branches outside her window was not her son. And Paulina throws up as high as she can muster with all her might, hurls at the air, letting hallelujahs and amends. Please, Lord, send him back, or please help him through. Let him prayers that bent the rafters when they fell back down. Or I'd for the devil in the wavy photographs of you through the fog lens of the frame, and I couldn't see a thing. I couldn't make my mind up. It didn't ease my loss. If If the devil is deep enough inside you, your hands are still hands, it's the bones that are clawed. All fingers curled, tendons tight, the morning rooster's quiet, no depression, no light. He isn't hell, he has to be. There's too much separation from the static in your voice and a great big bass drum banging in my ears. Oh, rise up and rise up, you're hurtling headlong, running out of gas. You get so tangled in the science of it that it doesn't make sense. Which one's connected to which bone? The drum rolls, waveforms, color patterns, super last horn, and trombone. There is no reason to run to being alive. Or last night I plowed the garden with the divining rod, dividing for my child. Fish hooks and loop twine, there's never reason to rhyme. The world spins wildly on its axis, trying to shake you loose. Looser when the nighttime falls and wilder when the sun goes down. The world spins wildly on its axis, and I thought this and thought this through. To let go, because to hold on when you're letting go of you. Well, I leave circling pigeons above me. Here I go. I struggle with the meaning of mercy. Please, God, go with me. And Paulina shoots herself. And how there's a blind rabbit choir, rabbits chattering, great big blackbirds plucking the corners off the sky. A somber after party of a Nuremberg trials, roots in their beaks pulling them hard to try to break through the ceiling of their sky, our ground, and funnel out into our world. Paulina's in hell searching for her son. She will find him and they'll try to escape, racing at full speed, grabbing onto the roots and branches that they can reach to climb them as ladders, looking for the underside of their garden. And they don't get out of hell. I mean, you can't just leave, no matter how bad a place you think it is. And look at the world left here around us. We're always forgetting beauty and hopeful cacophony. We're always forgetting the sun will shine on most anything. To never waste a word or a sense of wonder at every pickup truck and owl at the ground, sky, words, and even boiling hell, or something so miraculous like the moon that is so huge but still light enough to float up there in the thinnest of air that must be nothing more than a giant hole in the sky, which is still quite something. And we're always forgetting to sing and to move, to look for truth or a giant gospel choir singing till empty lungs. The threads that hold us here are coming off one by one, to where the gallows like a cross to honor John Brown, that it goes on all year round, and we're always forgetting harder times, and to rise up. And to rise up, I'll put myself up out of this with words, and even if you shake your hands, shake it loose. It'll stick to you that the world is beautiful, and I cannot believe that we're always forgetting that. Thanks. Okay, this is an old song, but I think, I like it. I should wait for the movie. I'm gonna wait for the movie. All right, I'm gonna start before the movie. Oh Lord, you know I have no friend like you. Is heaven not my home? Oh Lord, what should I do? A loved one beckons me from heaven's welcome door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. This world is not my home, I'm only passing by. My treasures and my home are yonder up on high. Well, all of my family that have gone on before, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Well, all long since past, there'll be no dying there. Drink shouts of victory ringing everywhere, and I have heard the voices of those who've gone before, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. This world is not my home, I'm only passing by. My treasures and my home are yonder up on high. And all of my family that have gone on before, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. I started too early. There you go. All right, now we get to the good ones. I'm getting into the good ones now. You start off mediocre. No, you start off with the bad stuff, and then you raise the bar to mediocre. You blow away the mediocre stuff. I'm really tired. All right, this is stuff from the film I'm working. Well, no, I finished. It's called Gravity Was Everywhere back then. And it's, sections of it are playing upstairs. It's a feature-length film, and it's a true story about this guy named Leonard Wood, he lived outside of Louisville, Kentucky, and when his wife was diagnosed with cancer, he decided he could build their house in this kind of healing machine that would save her life. And it didn't work. She died, but Leonard kept building the house frantically for the next 20 years of his life, until he fell off of the roof and he ended up in a nursing home, and he had to sell the house to cover the bills. And the guy who bought the house knocked it down because it was the only house in the block that didn't look like every other house in the block, pretty much. So we got to go down there before it fell, and it was unbelievable. Like, I shouldn't just repeat what's upstairs. I'll tell you a different story. Here goes. Here we go. All right, that's a good one. So, when I live in rural Pennsylvania, and I grew up on a farm, and when I was about, I had this grandfather, E.E. Green, who was just this complete bastard. Like, he had no redeeming qualities. He used to mow his lawn every single day. He used to shoot bees outside of his garage with a rifle. And he used to collect Nazi paraphernalia, and when my brothers and I were kids, he used to show us pictures of like the dead Germans in the Jeeps that he took all the stuff from. And so he was not a great fella. And one day, my granddad and I were on our driveway, and we were putting corn into this conveyor belt, and we'd drive it up this conveyor belt and drop it into this gigantic green trailer. And I still have no idea what we did with the corn once it was in the trailer, but that's what we were doing. And my granddad, the obsessive compulsive thing of like mowing his lawn every day, he didn't like the way the corn was sitting in the conveyor belt, and so he reached in to move it, and he caught his fingers on the chain, and the chain yanked the fingers off of his hands, just pulled them off. And he turned to me, I was like 8 years old, right? He turned to me and he's like, "Find my fucking fingers!" And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I kind of looked left and right, and I didn't see any fingers, and so I got on my bike to ride down to the farmhouse to get my mom, because I was thinking my mom could fix this, you know? And my granddad ran down to the house too, and he beat me there, and he was yelling at me the whole time, like pointing at me like, yeah, I have to do everything yourself, you know? Maybe so. And so my oldest brother went up and he found my granddad's fingers, and we put him on ice, and we took him to the hospital, and they sewed him back on. And it was a really, really awful cut. Like, he'd lost half of his thumb, all his index finger, half his middle finger, and the tip of his ring finger. But they sewed them back on, and they were all purpled and mangled, but they were just waiting to see if the circulation would take. And he didn't want to wait. He just said, take them back off. So they did. What an asshole. All night about how beautiful you were. How beautiful you were in Robert E. Lee and Walt Whitman's brain with some kind of adding machine with crows on the beach watching Lincoln ship disappearing out to sea. And fuck, I still say, follow me, and sometimes you do. Follow me, I say, like some drunken Pied Piper no one should ever follow. I say, like some drunken Pied Piper the other army is all aiming for and missing. I say with bullets hanging all around me, but I say with confidence like a good boxer or a surgical intern before the knife's in his hand. I say it with confidence. And sometimes you do. But I still must remember about how beautiful you were. I still must remember how beautiful you were. I still must talk to you and remember how beautiful you were. It is funny, isn't it though? All this rage masquerading as hope. It is funny, isn't it though? All this rage masquerading as hope. This goes on. This is true. I think it's true. I think so. I think it is. All right. Thanks for coming and sticking around. This is the house where I grew up. My Aunt Garland moved in there with us when she was 35. She had diabetes, and she just wanted to die. She was my mother's sister, so my mother took her in. She's good to me, like Scotchgard. She keeps me clean, she said. I'd like to think her head was burning. There was a furnace in there. She was struggling to adjust and couldn't pull the weight. She was all out of coal. But I remember it slow, no burn, and cold. When I was a kid, I had all these beginner science books. There's a skeleton inside you, floating and sinking, that kind of thing. I learned about buoyancy. I learned matter can never be created or destroyed. I learned energy is rolling or waiting to be rolled. Degrees in a triangle in a book. The bulge at the world's belly. Fulcrum supporting the weight. Bridges twisting in a hurricane before they break. Sound vibrating. Push and push back. Centrifugal force conductivity. Pulling science off the cross. Twisting in your hands until the room glows. And tradition breaks. Well, Garland was slowly going bad around us. She'd go to the hospital and come back missing a couple of toes, or part of her leg, a finger. She was getting amputated away. It was like watching a person with an apple for a head, rotting, a speedy, inevitable decay. The space around her eyes turned brown. They were going bad. Then she was blind. She wouldn't take any medicines. Her mind was filled with poisons already. Apple seeds around the core, her brain floating on a sea of mercury looking for the shore. Your body finds its own feet, and your eyes will find the door, but the knob won't turn itself. She was long hollowed of health. She thought she'd never die. I was pretty sure she would. The thermometer would blow in another cavity in her teeth. Your temperature is rising. The sea is getting deep. She spotted Virginia Woolf in a creek beside her house. Someone outside to talk to her, chasing her down. There's no beauty, no wonder, no time-lapse tricks, just wait. The only trick is to pull the weight. There's no Jesus by the tracks. No insulin teeth can't hold on to gums. Chattering, grinding them to bony nubs. Hollering grim, smiling when the lights went down. It was much, much brighter when the lights went down. By the oven seat, I was standing in the kitchen. I don't have those kinds of visions. It's too much. If I could have any superpower, I wouldn't get any smaller as I move further away. Well, I listen to those Bob Dylan songs with the volume all the way up. I can't turn the volume up loud enough. A room full of young men in wheelchairs, a pile of crutches by the door. Bandages, amputees, half-leg, drugs, half-life, liver, shelf-life. Bring our children home from an unnecessary war, one piece at a time. Matter and only matter, right? A thunderstorm blowing stars around the creek, flooding, fish flopping around by the driveway. Ghosts are rising in the doorframe. We were sitting very, very still, watching it crash hard outside the window. There's a world out there you did not affect at all, but I'm holding on to hope, no depression, and light. Everyone needs something to hold on to, right? But it is not enough. Louder. Dress, onto the floor, powder stitch with the hair still in her head. Every day, yellowed and thin, liquor ornamenting skin, and her husband stuck in the Navy writing letters by a 75-watt light bulb in the belly of a whale. And she carried all of this in a head boiling sound, and the head just in her burning up and burning her down. And she brought all of this in loneliness when she moved in with us. When your tongue must have died and we squeezed words from you one by one, so elbows stretched that we'd invent sentences from fragments. That was fun. Sad, sad but fun, like a string of bells ringing on the side of a snow sled made from an iron lung. What am I building this for? What the hell am I building this for? I have a right to know. I was not buoyant enough, there's not enough air in me to float. The clouds are low and gray like lead weights. There are a lot of ugly things in this world. Wind staying mostly outside, birds are exploding on power lines. We're all rising up. For Carlin and Garland, Sandy Green, and Eugene Thomas, Edison, and Einstein. We're all rising up. From Baltimore to the farmhouse, not all cars, just gasoline. From Marshall and Leonard Cohen, from Washington to the teeth, we're trying. Virginia went for service on a bed beside your bone, deep in your new cavity, blind rabbits, wheeze and moan. There's a choir in the farmhouse where she stood. Deep voices wishing dust around, a cello's crooked boards. And a woman on piano singing songs. And Carlin in her own room, trying not to sing along. Well, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I can hear a million moths flying around the front porch. I beat my way through them and close the door to the kitchen. There's euphoria all around you. Thank you for coming.